Neocon Congressman Dan Crenshaw, the reincarnation of John McCain, made some very interesting remarks this week surrounding the discussion of the bill to supposedly ban TikTok, which is really fake news because TikTok isn't getting banned, even if the bill passes the Senate, and even if old Joe signs it into law, and even if TikTok loses all of the lawsuits that, of course, they would file to try to stop it. All it would do is cause China to divest their financial interest in it. Basically, strong-arming the app away from the Chinese and then turning it over to American interests, since America likes to control and does control all of the big tech platforms. I'll get into the real reasons why this is actually happening later, and it's something that you're never going to hear on any of the mainstream conservative platforms from any member of Congress, unless they accidentally let it slip, any conservative ink pundit, but that's a whole other story. And by the way, subscribe to my channel if you're new here, because like I said, you're not going to get information and analysis like this anywhere else. After making some valid points about the Chinese using the app to spy on the American people and manipulate the algorithm, which of course he didn't get into the specifics about what that manipulation is. I'll get into that in a moment. He was asked a very interesting question to which he very quickly tried to dodge.
Access to everything TikTok has, which means data on all Americans, and with data and with access to your app that you're addicted to, you can vastly manipulate an entire population, which the Chinese have done already.
Are you worried that our intelligence agencies are doing the same thing domestically?
Am I worried that I know that they're not.
They're not manipulating Americans? They're not controlling the flow of information?
Yeah, did you have some evidence otherwise that you'd like to share?
Yes, actually, read one of my books, sir. It's filled with hundreds of pages of it.
I mean,
okay.
Before that's
any serious questions?
So ByteDance were to say
oh, okay, so he cut off his evidence. He was going to explain to him what it was that he was concerned about, but then he caught up with him later and asked him this.
Congressman, you asked for an example of the U.S. intelligence agencies meddling in our information. What about before the 2020 election when 50 members came out and said the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation? Does that count?
No, because I mean they were retired.
They were retired, but the FBI had the laptop for over a year.
There's nothing even close to what TikTok.
They're all retired. Stop worrying about them. It's not like they maintain any allegiance to the Operation Mockingbird program once they leave the agencies. Oh, wait, what's this? Oh, it's former CIA Director John Brennan and former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, both of whom are paid CNN contributors. This was my favorite part.
They were retired, but the FBI...
But there's no program, he says, in the American intelligence agencies to manipulate the mainstream media. I'm sorry, Congressman, but this audience is quite a bit more informed than your average American. So informed, in fact, that I'm not going to play the clip of the head of the CIA during the church hearing admitting that the agency maintains ties with the heads of all the major networks and reporters at all the networks and the newspapers, because they've probably seen it by now a dozen times over the years. But if you happen to be new here and found my channel recently by some fluke, because it's massively shadow banned, so usually you're not going to get recommended my videos in any of the algorithms, and you want to get up to speed, then read my book, The True Story of Fake News, which has an entire chapter detailing Operation Mockingbird. Now let's get into the real reasons why the bill to ban TikTok was introduced and why it has gained so much steam, gaining popularity with most Democrats and Republicans. And old Joe said that if it passes the Senate, then he will sign the bill into law. And it's not because it's a Chinese spy app or that the Chinese have been manipulating the algorithm for years, using the platform as an information warfare tool to undermine the United States. That's been obvious from day one. In fact, the Libs of TikTok Twitter account became famous by simply reposting the Libs of TikTok, many of them teachers, just talking about what it is that they're indoctrinating the children with and highlighting just how bizarre the rainbow people have become. Let's not forget that TikTok gave birth to Dylan Mulvaney. During the Republican presidential debates, neocon Nikki Haley revealed the real reason why the chorus to ban TikTok has gained so much steam.
We really do need to ban TikTok once and for all.
Is it because of all of the gender-bending propaganda, which basically caused wokeness to go from pocketed, isolated instances to a full-blown pandemic?
And let me tell you why. For every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day they become 17% more anti-Semitic, more pro-Hamas based on doing that.
What she means is they become more sympathetic to Palestinians and Palestine and become more critical of Israel. Here's some leaked audio from Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the Jewish ADL.
I also want to point out that we have a major generational problem. All the polling I've seen, ADL's polling, ICC's polling, independent polling, suggests this is not a left-right gap, folks. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Tag Lee, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like, fast. Because again, like, we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation.
But it's not like this is some big secret. Jonathan Greenblatt has been quite open about his concerns and his goals for TikTok.
We need to talk about TikTok. TikTok, if you will, it is the 24/7 news channel of so many of our young people, and it's like Al Jazeera on steroids, amplifying and intensifying the anti-Semitism and the anti-Zionism with no repercussions.
No repercussions, meaning people aren't getting censored or banned for their criticism of Israel. This from the Jerusalem Post. House set to vote on bill that could trigger TikTok ban with support from major Jewish group. And that's not the ADL. This is another group, the Jewish Federations of North America, representing hundreds of organized Jewish communities. But like many things regarding certain agendas, if you point it out without enthusiastically endorsing and supporting it, then you run a high risk of being called a racist or an anti-Semite. But what else is interesting is there are numerous Democrats and even some Republicans, well-respected Republicans, who oppose the TikTok ban. People like Senator Rand Paul, who says that it's a misguided overreach and a draconian measure that stifles free expression, tramples constitutional rights, and disrupts the economic pursuits of millions of Americans. Now, he's a little bit of a boomer. He doesn't understand that it's not going to be banned. It's just going to be sold to an American company, so none of the TikTokers are going to lose their precious app. Here is New York University professor Scott Galloway making some very valid points, although he does have Trump derangement syndrome, and his main concern about a foreign adversary owning a major social media platform is that they're going to promote Donald Trump, or that they're going to spread or allow people questioning the outcomes, or it's going to undermine the Democrat Party. Of course, he would never mention, just like the cowardly conservatives, never mention that China has been using it in order to promote the gender-bending pandemic. But he does make some very valid points here, speaking in generalities, not getting into specifics, but you know what the potentials are for such manipulation.
If you believe, as I do, the CCP has a strategic imperative in depositioning and weakening our role around the world, and they have the frame through which young people see the world, wouldn't they be stupid not to do this? It's what we do. We have a division of the Army called PSYOPs. You know what they do? They try and find and invest and foment and cultivate media properties in other parts of the world so we can play a pro-American and an anti-adversary content.
And we have Operation Mockingbird, which, well, functions illegally here at home.
Can you imagine what the Mossad or the CIA would do with this? And by the way, let's put all of that aside. Let's just talk about trade symmetry. If they're going to let Tesla into China, we should let BYD into the US. That makes sense. What American media company is in China? None. They're not going to let us talk to their youth. No way would they let an American company influence what their youth see.
Correct. But despite the damage that TikTok has done to Generation Z and the millennials, putting that toothpaste back into the tube at this point is impossible. But fortunately, parents and legislators are finally realizing just how bad society has sunk because of social media. And so they're trying to pass laws that ban kids from using any form of social media, because it's not just TikTok, of course, it's Snapchat and Instagram, Discord, all social media, any kind of interactions over the web. should be banned from kids under the age of 18 for numerous reasons. If a parent tries to stop their kids from doing it, they're going to be the social outcast. It doesn't matter how many parental controls they have, or they ban the kids from having smartphones. They're going to buy devices from their friends' older siblings. They're going to get it. So there should be a nationwide ban from anybody under the age of 18 posting anything on social media, having a social media account, even being able to interact or comment on any social media platform, any internet platform, period. It's beyond stunning. It's horrifying and despicable that we allowed this as a society to not just happen, but to become the norm, to become the centerpiece of the culture of the kids. And if you want to know the full extent of what it is that they're doing to the kids, not just through social media, but through media in general and in the schools, then order my new book, The War on Conservatives, in paperback from Amazon.com, or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores. And of course, there's a link to the Amazon listing in the description below. So click it and head on over there and check it out.